Hi there, welcome back. Thanks for joining me again. Alan here, and I thought this video would be of interest to those of you who've been following my sequence of videos around the preparation of these bolt-action World War II Greeks. You've seen the army, and as you know, the whole objective was to be in a position to play at the Warfare Tournament 2024, and I thought you'd be interested to know how we got on. And the honest answer is pretty well. I played 5 games in the weekend, more of that later. I won 2 of them, I lost 1, and I drew 2. More importantly, I had some really good games. There were quite a number of people relatively new to the, I won't say period, but certainly the rule set. And we had some very, very interesting games. As part of this video, I'll share the terrain with you. But one of the things I was most worried about before going was, apart from not knowing the rules very well, I was actually concerned that this infantry army that you see before you, with very little in the way of heavy equipment, as you know, I've got a couple of these light anti-tank guns, I've got some machine guns. This howitzer I painted. I'm not particularly pleased with how it turned out, but that's not part of the army, the 1200 points. But as you can see, it's very infantry heavy. The army, as I've said before, is 3 squads of infantry, not the 4th. And I thought, anyone with a decent sort of armoured capability was going to be a real problem. The nice thing was the terrain was very dense, and certainly a lot more constrained, shall we say, than I was expecting. And that was a real bonus for an army like this. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the terrain that we fought over at the weekend. Here you'll see 2 tables, and what we've got on the left-hand side here is the table I played on first. On the right, we've got the one I played on second. The one on the left was a great opponent, Tim, using a German army, I think, from the Italian campaign. And it started off quite, obviously, as you can see, it's very dense, but it started off quite badly for me in that Tim got a lot of dice out, and all of a sudden, the multi-barreled launcher, Nobelwerfer, hit the main concentration of my Greek troops and caused me much consternation for a number of turns. However, we finally got some attacks in, and you'll see those arrows flashing up on the screen. And it ended well for me on the grounds that this was a cause as much damage as you can type mission to the opponents, and it was all about the number of dice. And Tim managed to foobar in the second to last turn and took out his own commander, which was basically what helped swing the battle in my favour. But again, point to note here is the dense terrain. The second game looks a little bit like the invasion of Normandy. You can see from the arrows the sort of general direction of advance of both myself and my Chinese opponent. This was a mission-based game, and I think you can probably see sort of a few gaps in the wall. But there's some little grey discs which I'll highlight on the video in a moment, and those were the objectives for the game. And basically, this was the game I lost because I just couldn't get to the objectives. There we go. The red one was contested, and the others were 3 to my opponent and 2 to me. So that ended up as a narrow loss, but, lessons learned. I learned as well not to forget to snap with my officers. One key lesson that I'd invite anyone to sort of take away with them is that you need to use your officers to get your manoeuvrability up. Okay, so game 3 for me was actually on the same table as I'd started with. So this is table 1 again. Didn't really mind. It was a good table to play on for my infantry-based army. We had a look at the mission, and it was to try and get your units off table. There's only a couple of real routes you can use on this table, and I didn't realise at the time, but my opponent, Mike, didn't really have anything that was mobile. So this ended up being a bit of a stalemate where he had lots of artillery and I couldn't get off the table easily, but nor could he really get off the side of mine. So another good game, but just ended up as a bit of a stalemate, but fun nevertheless. Okay, so game 3, and we're in the jungle. Again, more terrain than perhaps some of you might expect to see. Lots of buildings providing cover, and various bits of vegetation providing soft cover. What we've got here is a mission based on table quarters, where we're trying to get our units into the opponent's quarter and we're also trying to kill their enemy as part of that overall sort of objective. I've just circled there the main Greek position where I've got a unit in the building, I've got a machine gun next to them, and I've got a light anti-tank gun. As part of this mission, we've got an initial or preparatory bombardment. As part of that, mine didn't go too badly, just ended up with a few pins on. Unfortunately, Stefan managed to really have some problems with dice rolling, and he took it very well, much better than I would have done perhaps, but he managed to lose a couple of vehicles and officers and specialist teams in the process. So I was about 4 dice to the good after the first sort of bombardment phase, which really set the tone for the rest of the game. Stefan had some really disappointing, and that's putting it mildly, dice rolling, where he couldn't get his troops to do much. I managed to take out a tank and the little sniper team that you'll see highlighted in red, which proved probably one of the most difficult elements of his army to deal with. But then I was able to sort of develop a few of my own attacks once we cleared some of those concerns out of the way. So there's a few arrows up here. I got some troops into buildings. I got my light tankettes up on the left flank. And generally, we ended up with a lot more dice. I think Stefan actually might have got one more unit into a quarter than I did, but it ended up as a nice win based on the number of dice. Okay, I should correct myself. Actually, Stefan was game 4. This is game 5, the final game on Sunday afternoon. Again, another great opponent. We had a great game. Fallschirmjäger this time versus Greeks, which is potentially historical, albeit perhaps not in this sort of winter terrain that we see here. This is more of a sort of Russian-themed setup. On the top left-hand side there, you can see the main concentration of Germans. This is about turn 3, if I remember rightly. And we've got some Marder anti-tank vehicles, a truck providing a bit of mobility, a couple of squads of Fallschirmjäger. And you'll see on the board that I'll highlight as well now some of the terrain objectives that were part of the mission again to try and capture them. We ended up with 3 each. Great game, well fought. I was quite surprised at the staying power because I thought my Greeks might just melt away in the face of some of the sort of Fallschirmjäger kind of troops. But we had some good shooting dice when we needed it. We had a couple of occasions where neither one of us could hit the side of a barn door. But yeah, a great game and a nice way to end the tournament. All of the tables had, cover areas that it was easy to, or easier, shall we say, just to avoid, mass fire effects. The guys who were using armor, I think, found that quite a difficult challenge to use it properly. I had some real luck in my favour as we went through the process. Certainly, I felt that a couple of games the terrain was really kind and it could have been very awkward. But there's just a couple of things I wanted to mention, really, for those of you who haven't given it a go. Number one, it's a friendly tournament, or certainly my experience was that it was a friendly tournament. People were very happy to help you work your way through the rules. I found Phil and Johnny, the guys running it, to be very helpful and very sort of supportive. And there was one stage where I was being a bit slow with one of my opponents, and they actually came along to help me pull some dice and to get the whole thing moving quite quickly. So I really enjoyed it. I had some really good games. The army wasn't, a victim army, shall we say. It had the ability to actually perform quite well on the tabletop. I had some real fun. Stefan, I must mention, had probably the worst sequence of die rolling I've ever seen, managing to destroy some of his troops before the game even started with a preliminary bombardment sort of sequence. But the point is that it was real fun. As I said before, this isn't necessarily a World War II simulation. It's a game. And a couple of the real stars of the show I've got in front of me here were actually the tankettes. They are armoured, so they're quite difficult to kill without you having some kind of anti-tank capability. They're quite manoeuvrable. I had them upgraded to veteran, which I think was a real bonus. And they were just really quite nice little mobile nuisance platforms with the twin machine guns that they each carry. So they were really good. Snipers are quite dangerous in bolt action. Where's my one gone? I'll just retrieve him. So that's the spotter, and as you've seen before, that's the sniper in his little sort of textured base. But the interesting thing is they were very difficult to dislodge in cover. I made all of my sort of specialist teams, the machine guns, the anti-tank rifle, the mortar, etc., and these light anti-tank guns. I made them all veteran as well, which again made a real difference when it came to taking casualties, or in preferably not taking casualties, because they were much more durable. So as I said, I'll paste up some photos of the terrain. I would encourage anyone to give it a go. I'm not saying all tournaments are like it, but certainly there's a bunch of people out there playing bolt action that are very much in it for the game and a bit of fun. And I wouldn't shy away from using perhaps another strange army, shall we say, or an unusual army, because I think you'll find plenty of opponents taking it in the right spirit, as it were. So just a quick set of feedback and thanks for those who joined me. I had a couple of people who follow the channel come and say hello to me on the weekend as well, which was very much appreciated. And obviously I'm happy to talk to anyone about what we're doing. My next video post this will be a little bit of an intro as to the Winter 24 projects. So hopefully you'll be able to follow that and there'll be something of interest for you. There is another bolt action project in the wings, and hopefully that will get some of you interested and excited about what you can do with your own figures. I'm going to do some regular painting as it were, but also I'm trying to look for different challenges about the subject matter and the types of forces that I'm putting together. So thanks very much for watching this. Apologies, it's a little bit boring and a bit dry, but I thought it was just interesting reminding people of how the tournament actually played out, and hope to see some of you at a future event in the not too distant future. Thanks very much for watching. Bye now.